Imagine a world where the most interesting thing a celebrity owns doesn't sit in a garage or hang on a gallery wall. It floats on water, or lands on a beach, or hauls survivors out of open ocean at 160 knots. These aren't status symbols with leather interiors and vanity registration numbers. These are vintage rescue aircraft, machines built when lives depended on getting there, and getting there fast. And somehow, against all logic, some of Hollywood's biggest names decided these were exactly the right things to put their money into. Stay until the end, because number one isn't just one aircraft. It's an entire airborne rescue museum that makes every other entry on this list look like a down payment. Let's start with number 10. Number 10. John Lithgow and the de Havilland Beaver. Most pilots dream of a Cirrus or a King Air. John Lithgow reportedly went a different direction entirely. The de Havilland DHC-2 Beaver, typically valued between $300,000 and well over $1 million depending on restoration, was originally built for bush operations and water rescue across Canada's remote northern territories. Under the nose sits a Pratt & Whitney R985 Wasp Junior radial, producing around 450 horsepower. Cruise speed is modest at roughly 100 to 115 knots, but that was never the point. The Beaver was designed to land where nothing else could. Gravel bars, glassy lakes, short strips hacked out of wilderness. The Canadian military operated them for medevac and rescue work for decades. For Lithgow, it fits. Understated, purposeful, gets the job done without announcing itself. But if the Beaver is the quiet one, the next aircraft announces its presence from about 3 miles out. Number 9. Jimmy Buffett and the Grumman HU-16 Albatross. Jimmy Buffett didn't just write songs about island life. He flew it in something that genuinely belongs next to a yacht. His Grumman HU-16 Albatross, valued north of $3 to $4 million depending on restoration quality, was originally built for open water search and rescue operations during the Korean War. 2 Wright R1820 radial engines sit on the high wing, each producing around 1,400 horsepower. Combined, that's roughly 2,800 horsepower, turning large props that move serious amounts of air. Cruise speed sits around 180 to 200 miles per hour, and range can stretch well beyond 2,000 miles. The Albatross flew rescue missions across the Pacific. It landed on rough water when sailors went down and climbed back into the sky with survivors aboard. Buffett parked his at a marina instead of an airport. And honestly, that feels exactly right. Number 8. Francis Ford Coppola and the Consolidated PBY Catalina. Francis Ford Coppola built his career telling stories about men who overreach, so it tracks that he'd own the aircraft version of exactly that. The PBY Catalina, valued anywhere from $1 million to over $3 million for a well-restored example, was the backbone of Allied maritime patrol and air-sea rescue operations in World War II. 2 Pratt & Whitney R1830 twin Wasp radials, each producing around 1,200 horsepower, sit on a parasol wing above the fuselage. Cruise speed around 117 knots. Endurance over 24 hours in some configurations. Catalinas pulled downed airmen from shark-infested water across the Pacific. They hunted submarines in the Atlantic. A single Catalina crew once rescued 56 survivors from a single mission. Coppola's connection to the aircraft is the storytelling. Every rivet has a record attached to it. Number 7. Ted Turner and the Grumman G-44 Widgeon. Ted Turner built CNN and won the America's Cup. His aircraft choices have always leaned toward the self-reliant end of the spectrum. The Grumman G-44 Widgeon, typically valued between $200,000 and $700,000 depending on condition, was originally designed as a small amphibious patrol and rescue aircraft for the U.S. Navy during World War II. Two Ranger L440 engines, producing around 200 horsepower each, pushed the Widgeon to a cruise of roughly 130 miles per hour. It can take off from water, land on pavement, then taxi to the fuel pump like nothing unusual just happened. The Coast Guard flew them for coastal rescue patrols. For Turner, the appeal is obvious. It's self-sufficient, it goes anywhere, and nobody else at the airport owns one. Number 6. Nicolas Cage and the Grumman Mallard. Nicolas Cage has owned a castle, a dinosaur skull, and a pyramid-shaped tomb. So a vintage amphibious transport aircraft barely registers as unusual for him. The Grumman G-73 Mallard, valued between $1 and $2 million for a flying example, was originally built as a luxury amphibian, but served coastal patrol and rescue roles during and after World War II. Two Pratt & Whitney R1340 Wasp radials, each producing around 600 horsepower, pushed the Mallard to a cruise of roughly 180 miles per hour, with a range close to 700 miles. It seats 10 passengers and operates from both water and conventional runways without modification. The Mallard's hull is deep, the wing is high, and the twin radials give it that unmistakable wartime silhouette. Cage reportedly sold most of his collection after financial difficulties. The Mallard was one of the casualties, which makes it feel even more cinematic somehow. Number 5. John Travolta and the Lockheed L-10049 Super Constellation. Most celebrities who own vintage aircraft own one. Travolta owns a fleet, and the centerpiece is the Super Constellation, valued north of $2 to $4 million, and significantly more for an airworthy example. The L-10049 served with the U.S. Navy as an airborne early warning and maritime patrol platform. 4 Wright R3350 duplex Cyclone radials, each producing up to 3,400 horsepower, combine for over 13,000 horsepower across the wing. Cruise speed around 330 miles per hour with a range exceeding 5,000 miles. The triple tail silhouette is one of the most recognizable shapes in aviation history. Travolta's is painted in Eastern Airlines livery, which softens the military heritage slightly, but the bones of a patrol aircraft are still there. He holds type ratings for multiple aircraft and actively flies the Connie. It's not a showpiece, it actually goes somewhere. Number 4. Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Gulfstream III. Schwarzenegger's aircraft history includes multiple jets, but his reported fondness for the Gulfstream III connects back to an aircraft with serious patrol and maritime reconnaissance heritage. The G-III, valued between $2 and $6 million depending on avionics and condition, was adapted for military surveillance and coastal patrol operations by several air forces during the Cold War. 2 Rolls-Royce Spey 511-8 turbofans produce around 11,400 pounds of thrust each, range around 4,500 nautical miles, cruise speed close to 500 miles per hour at altitude. The G-III isn't vintage in the warbird sense, but for a jet-era rescue and surveillance platform with genuine operational history, it earns its place here. Schwarzenegger reportedly used it extensively, which is the one thing that separates genuine aircraft owners from the ones just filing the registration for Instagram. Number 3. Steve Jobs and the Boeing 757. Jobs is gone, but his aircraft history matters here because the 757 he operated had direct lineage to the Boeing C-32 and C-40 variants used for military medevac and VIP transport operations. The aircraft, valued at roughly $60 to $90 million new and significantly less on the secondary market, is powered by two Rolls-Royce RB211 535 E4B turbofans, producing around 43,500 pounds of thrust each. Range over 3,900 nautical miles. Jobs had his aircraft modified extensively inside, stripping most of the commercial fittings. The connection to rescue and patrol heritage is indirect here, but the airframe itself served those roles across multiple air forces. And Jobs was reportedly obsessed with the aircraft design to an unusual degree, treating the interior as a design project the same way he treated every Apple product, which, given the results, seems about right. Number 2. Paul Allen and the Catalina PBY restoration fleet. Paul Allen didn't just own a vintage rescue aircraft. He funded the full restoration of multiple examples and put them back in the air through his Flying Heritage and Combat Armor Museum in Everett, Washington. Individual PBY restorations can run between $2 million and $5 million for airworthy examples. The aircraft that once pulled airmen from Pacific combat zones were grounded, deteriorating, and nearly lost. Allen's investment brought them back. The same Pratt and Whitney twin Wasps running again. The same Parasol wings carrying the same high-mounted engines. Flying restorations of rescue aircraft aren't just expensive. They're a form of active preservation. Allen understood that the aircraft themselves were the record, not just photographs of them. Number 1. Dan Friedkin and the multi-type Warbird Rescue Collection. Dan Friedkin does not own a vintage rescue aircraft. He owns several, and they span multiple types, including PBYs, albatrosses, and patrol-configured warbirds with documented rescue histories. Individual airframes. In his collection sit north of $3 to $5 million each for fully airworthy examples. Multiply that across a fleet, and the number stops being a price tag and starts being a commitment. Friedkin flies them. He maintains them. He enters them in air shows where the radial engines start up in formation and the sound carries across 3 counties. When a Catalina and an Albatross taxi out together on the same morning, it is not a collection flexing its value. It is operational history refusing to go quiet. And that's the thing about celebrity aircraft, especially rescue aircraft. The ones worth owning aren't the ones that sit still. They're the ones that still go somewhere. So tell me in the comments, which of these would you take on a water landing, the Albatross or the Catalina? And if aviation history like this lands for you, hit subscribe, because next we're looking at the rarest military aircraft still flying in private hands today.